In today's video, I'm going to take my very first sail in the Precision 16. And for this sail, I decided to come out to Cherry Creek Reservoir in Aurora, Colorado, which is the home of Community Sailing of Colorado, which has a fleet of small dinghies, and they have youth programs and summer camps. So I knew this would be a good place to do some dinghy sailing. So for those that have been following the channel, you know that I've done a ton of work on the Precision 16, including new sails, new rigging, replacing the bow eye, doing a bunch of work to the trailer. So it's been a long process to get to this first sail. So the first thing that I immediately noticed about this boat is that compared to the Precision 18 that I normally sail, it's a little bit harder to move from side to side on the boat. And of course the Precision 18 has the mast mounted atop the cabin, and so on this boat the boom is much lower. It has a very flat cockpit, and so it's just a little harder to get from side to side. So this is my first time sailing an unballasted dinghy, and I really wasn't sure how stable the boat would be, like if I would be able to stand up on the boat and walk around. And so surprisingly, it's really stable. I was able to stand up, walk around the decks, go to the bow with no problem. The other thing that I missed right away was the cam cleats from the P18 that hold the halyards. So on this boat, there's just horn cleats on the mast, on the base of the mast. And so I really like to be able to tune my halyards and tighten and loosen them as the winds pick up, or if you're ghosting or whatever. So I really miss that. All right, so I wanted to see if the boat would go hove to, and yeah, it sure does. See, I've got the back window jib, got the mainsail about centered, and very light wind, but still, just wanted to see how it did, and it does go hove to. And of course right now it's very flat, but I'm sure with a little more wind it would be something else. That's a lot of sail area. It's the same as the P18 basically. So yeah, I'm definitely glad that I got one deep reef, so that might come in handy. But yeah, so I'm just doing my initial sea trials on the P16. And so far so good. And I picked a perfect day because the winds are super light, so it makes it a lot easier. Everything is just moving a little slower, so I wouldn't want to be out here in like 12 or 15 mile an hour winds doing this for the first time. So anyway, I'm gonna get back to it. All right, so I'm solo sailing the P16. I'm standing up on the bow, and yeah, the boat is kind of sailing itself right now. I just got the tiller tied off. Very light winds, very, very light winds, but still, that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. So other things I noticed about the boat, of course, it has a very high sail area to displacement ratio of 46.52. So that's just a little bit lower than, say, like a laser, which is 47.9. But of course, it has twice the sail area of a laser, which a laser is a very, very light boat. The Buccaneer 18 has a 44.51 sail area to displacement ratio, so slightly lower. But of course, the Buccaneer 18 is a much heavier boat. So, it has a ton of sail area. It's a pretty light boat. It weighs 350 pounds. And so it moves very, very well in light air. But, I suspect as I get into heavier air, it's going to become a lot to handle. I also noticed that the rudder did not have as much grip as the P18 does. And so the rudder that came with the boat is made out of wood. It's basically homemade by a previous owner. So I think I'm going to need to upgrade to something else just so that I have a little more control and a little more grip. The other thing I noticed is that When the centerboard is up, the boat does not motor very well at all if the wind is coming from the beam. So the wind will just carry the boat sideways when you're motoring. So you have to leave a little centerboard down if you have wind hitting the beam. Overall, I was super impressed with the boat. It was a lot of fun to sail. It stayed nice and flat. Granted, I was in pretty light air, but it stayed nice and flat the whole time I was sailing it. And it was just a lot of fun. And, keep in mind, I only paid $650 for this boat. I mean, it needed a ton of work, but it was a great deal. So I'm really looking forward to trying it out in some higher winds and, getting the boat, planing because it's a planing hull and going a little faster in the boat. So more to come on that.